Now, I know you may have read the title and think to yourself, this is going to be some stupid, cheesy theory, but it is actually going to be based heavily off of information we learned in Aftermath Empire's End. Now, if you haven't read the book and plan to, you may want to click away and come back when you're done, because there are going to be spoilers for one of the subplots we've seen running through the three books. It will not, however, spoil the main storyline. And with that warning out of the way, let's dive right into it. Now, I'm sure you'll all remember that scene in The Force Awakens when Kylo Ren is speaking to Vader's melted helmet and promises to finish what you started. I've always kind of assumed that somehow the helmet still contained some type of residual dark side power, and that it had been that power that caused Kylo Ren to have a Force vision similar to the one Rey has the very first time he touched it. Well, it turns out that may very well be the case, because in Empire's End we learn that Sith helmets and masks gather and retain the darkness of the living Force. This information we learned from Yub Tashu, who is one of the Emperor's most closest and personal advisors, as well as being a strong believer in the dark side arts himself. He was one of the few people in Palpatine's most inner circle that actually knew he was a Sith Lord. After Palpatine's death, he is one of the creators and masters of a new group of Sith worshippers called the Acolytes of the Beyond, who at first had been gathering Sith relics and lightsabers to sacrifice to their other masters, who they believe and claim are ancient Sith that have been showing them visions in their dreams. Now, as this movement grows, these Acolytes of the Beyond have started to keep some of these relics and use them, including lightsabers, robes, and so on. However, the highest honor reserved for those who move up in the ranks of this organization is to receive a helmet or mask that once belonged to an ancient Sith. In the book, we see a young woman, Kaiza, who's actually full of doubt about what the Acolytes of Beyond are doing and is pretty much only there for a guy she's developed feelings for. Well, from Yub Tashu, she receives a bronze mask with gloss black eyes that once belonged to a Sith named Viceroy Exum Panshard, and is also given a lightsaber taken from that guy that she had feelings for, which obviously makes him none too happy. In an attack conducted by the Acolytes of the Beyond on New Republic forces who have set up a base on Deveron on a site once revered by ancient Sith, Kaiza wears the mask and uses the lightsaber given to her, and seems almost possessed by its power, though the book makes it clear that she herself is not wielding the Force, which leads me to believe she is just merely a vessel for something else. During the attack, the guy who had his saber taken away from him and given to her, the one she once liked, tries to take it back, but he ends up having the dangerous end of the unignited saber pressed to his face, and then turned on. Now, at first I thought this all seemed to be a major departure from something George Lucas had previously established about the Sith and how life and the Force works in general in the Star Wars universe, that when something dies, its consciousness is lost and joins with the cosmic Force, unless one has had proper training and becomes a Force ghost, which is something only Jedi can achieve since it involves overcoming all fear and giving up all attachments. I have a whole video on this if you'd like to check it out and learn more. This is part of the reason why Sith are obsessed with finding the key to eternal life. They know nothing awaits them after death. However, if ancient Sith are speaking to these Acolytes of the Beyond and causing them to have dreams, it almost implies that they still do exist in some capacity, which flies in the face of previously established canon. Then, however, I realize they go out of their way to say that these dark side Sith spirits, or whatever you'd like to call them, are still a part of the living Force, and we know that after death things join with the cosmic Force. So I believe that Sith who are powerful enough can leave, for lack of a better way of putting it, a dark side stain on the living Force itself, which affixes itself to items they wore or wielded in life, mainly helmets. Now, this in itself may not be a revelation, and it's an easy conclusion to come to, but it implies that Darth Vader's helmet would also have a residual dark side stain left on it by him, which by itself may also not seem to be all that important, considering many Sith seem to have left this stain behind. However, no other Sith has ever turned back to the light before death and become a Force ghost until Anakin or Vader did it. So, in a strange sense, both Anakin Skywalker and Darth Vader now exist. What, if anything, could this possibly mean? Good question. Most likely nothing. Or it could explain why Ben Solo is being torn in two. He is being pulled on by both Anakin Skywalker and Darth Vader. Now, obviously I also think that these Acolytes of the Beyond will become the Knights of Ren. Why do they change their name? My best guess, the helmet Kylo Ren wears once belonged to a Sith named, well, Ren, and he was clearly a very powerful one if this is either the helmet he chose or was presented with when he joined the Acolytes of the Beyond. And then of course he changed their name to the Knights of Ren in honor of this Sith. Another curious note, which may mean absolutely nothing, is Kylo Ren didn't wear his helmet during his duel with Rey at the end of The Force Awakens. In fact, he may have completely left it behind and lost it. What if wearing him makes him even more powerful? This would go along with what I mentioned earlier about how in Empire's End, Kaiza, when she wore the mask, seemed to be imbued with dark side power. Might this also happen when Kylo Ren wears his helmet? Something to think about, but probably absolutely nothing. Well, that's all I got for you this time. Let me know what you think about all this in the comments below, and let's talk some Star Wars. Also, please subscribe to my channel for more videos about Aftermath Empire's End and all things Star Wars to come. If you're already subscribed, then thanks for your continued support. If you want to know when I upload new videos, then click the notification button or just follow me on Twitter. And as always, thanks for watching.